Coming up, we revive our story on the Accra-Tema motorway, where the patch portions are rotting away. Well, you remember the man who applied to the Supreme Court to be allowed to marry more women under Ordinance? We have an update on his action. Founder of defunct Beige Capital in court for an alleged theft of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. Government drags striking teachers to Labour Commission over Dr Nkansah's appointment as GES Director General, and Bulldog sues Shatta Wale for defamation. Welcome to Graphic Online's News in Brief. We start from the road sector, where despite sustained public outcry, the 19-kilometer Accra-Tema motorway continues to deteriorate and pose grave danger to motorists. 2 years after Graphic began to highlight the deteriorating state of the 56-year-old motorway, potholes, bitumen patches, erosion and hardened lumps from spilled concrete are still posing a danger and discomfort to drivers and passengers who commute it on a daily basis. On both sides of the country's only concrete motorway, potholes, some of which have been patched with bitumen, have left the road in a dangerous state, especially at night when visibility on the stretch is poor. About half of the street lights that were mounted on the motorway about a year ago are not functioning. A month-long monitoring by Graphic as a follow-up to the similar exercises in the past has revealed that the situation has only become worse. While the Tema-Accra stretch remains the more deplorable, the portion around the Ashaiman toll booth, where transit trucks park on the shoulders, sometimes for hours, has been destroyed by potholes, while erosion has also eaten into the edges. The stretch just before the Abattoir Bridge, which was recently fixed, has developed potholes that force drivers to slow down, creating traffic congestion all the way to the Ashaiman Underbridge area. On 4 occasions, while monitoring activities on the motorway for this story series, Graphic came across vehicular accidents, one of which resulted in injuries and the victims rushed to the hospital. On a recent tour of the motorway a week ago, a tanker truck driver, Raymond Nkrumah, who was seen stranded on the Tema side with his vehicle in a ditch, said he had loaded the truck with diesel from the Bulk Oil Storage Transportation Limited in Tema and was headed for Kumasi when the truck hit a pothole, resulting in the removal of the tire rod. He had petitioned the Supreme Court for a permission to be allowed to practice polygamy under Ordinance. That is, he wanted the Supreme Court to allow him to marry more women under Ordinance and not necessarily under customary or Islamic law. His petition generated a lot of public interest, but Samuel Ampuma, who is a farmer, has discontinued the case. Mr. Ampuma filed a notice of discontinuance on October 22nd. The Supreme Court is expected to sit soon and decide whether or not to allow the plaintiff to discontinue the suit. Mr. Ampuma went to the Supreme Court in November 2021 with a case that it was unconstitutional for the Marriages Act of 1884 and the Criminal Offences Act of 1960 to forbid a man from marrying more than one wife under the Ordinance and also make it a crime. His argument was that the two laws violated Articles 17 and 21 of the 1992 Constitution, which respectively prohibits discrimination and guarantees the right to practice any religion without restriction. He therefore wanted a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of the 1992 Constitution and in the spirit of the Constitution, Section 74, which forbids a man from marrying more than one wife under the Ordinance, was unconstitutional and therefore null and void. Again, he wanted the Apex Court to declare as unconstitutional sections of Act 29, which make it an offense for a man to marry again under the Ordinance while he is already married. Under Cap 127, there are 3 types of marriages: customary, Islamic and Ordinance. The first two, that is customary and Islamic, allow a man to marry more than one wife, while the Ordinance prohibits a man from marrying more than one wife. Mr. Ampuma argued that the marriage under the Ordinance applied solely to Christian marriage, but that there was no evidence that monogamous marriage was part of Christianity. Rather, he argued that monogamous marriage was a European culture which had been made to look like a religious Christian culture. It was therefore his case that making it compulsory for Christians to marry only one was an imposition which discriminates against people in Ghana and who identified as Christians. And in court today, the founder of the defunct Beige Bank, Michael Nyineku, pleaded not guilty to a 1.2 billion Ghana cedis theft. He has been granted a 200 million cedis bail by the Economic and Financial Crime Division of the High Court in Accra with 3 sureties. Michael Nyineku has been charged at the court presided over by Justice Efiasewa Asaribotwe for allegedly stealing 1.2 billion cedis of depositors' money from the bank. He pleaded not guilty to 43 charges of stealing, fraudulent breach of trust, and money laundering when he mounted the dock today. A Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Tuayebua, who represented the state, did not oppose the bail application by counsel for Nyineku. The bail conditions are that out of the 3 sureties, 2 must be justified. The case has been adjourned to December 22nd for a case management conference.
You see, in a case like this, you need to have time to do a thorough investigation. We are talking about figures. It's not something that you can compute. You need to have the experts to go through the books. So we have decided to let some space so that we can do everything. So that when we come to court, we don't have problems to how we arrive at figure A or figure B. So it's about a thorough investigation. And now we are satisfied that all that we needed to be done. The depositors needed to be paid. The government had to pay. We are now in court to prosecute and, if possible, recover. You know, if you paid an amount of 1.2 billion from the taxpayers' money, you need that money back. You can get it back only when you take a legal action as done today. So this is and I can assure you that there are other cases that also very soon will take the courts. And a lot of investigations to recover those monies.
I mean, if you say other cases, are we looking in relation to the other collapsed
exactly. Banks, microfinance, savings and loans.
And in the teacher front, the government has dragged the striking teacher unions to the National Labour Commission over their stance on the appointment of an acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service. The Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, which dragged the unions to the NLC, is requesting for an intervention in the ongoing strike by the pre-tertiary teacher unions. The unions had insisted that they don't want Dr. Nkansah, currently in an acting position, as the Director General of the GES. One of the arguments is that Dr. Nkansah is not a professionally trained teacher, and therefore he cannot be the head of the GES. But that has been countered by the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, who has said Dr. Nkansah taught geography at the SHS level, apart from being a full-time lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University before his appointment to the Ministry of Education. The teacher unions had given an ultimatum of November 4th for the government to revoke the appointment of Dr. Nkansah, and so when the time elapsed last Friday, they embarked on the strike. The 3 teacher unions and the ministries were expected to meet this afternoon to conclude their meeting over the industrial action, but that has been called off because of the new move to the NLC. On Monday, they met on the issue, which was the second time of meeting on the subject, but they failed to come to an agreement. The parties had earlier met last Friday without success. Meanwhile, Graphic Online has gathered from sources within the teachers' front that they would have preferred Dr. Christiana Daipoku, a former president of NAGRAT, as the GES Director General. Dr. Daipoku was a vocal leader of NAGRAT from his days as the Ashanti Regional Chairman to National Vice President and eventually becoming President of the association. He is currently the Registrar of the National Teaching Council, an agency of the Ministry of Education. And before we go, an entertainment. Nana Isiama Hansen, popularly known as Bulldog, has sued dancehall artist Shatta Wale for alleging that he has a hand in the death of Fene Kochiri, an artist manager who died in 2014. Fene Kochiri's murder case is yet to be resolved. It had been added to one of the cold cases of the Ghana Police Service until Shatta Wale's comment revived it in the public domain last week. Bulldog's defamation suit comes after Shatta Wale last week threatened to expose an alleged secret about his alleged involvement in Fene's murder. Shatta Wale had put that out in a social media post. Bulldog, in a writ filed on Monday, is arguing that Shatta Wale has gone public with claims damaging his reputation and connecting him to the murder of Fene Kochiri. He is therefore seeking a court order for Shatta Wale to retract his defamatory statement and apologize without reservation for 8 days. Bulldog is also requesting special and punitive damages against his former artist for the publication. Our news in brief is brought to you by Graphic News Plus.
Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news.
Thank you for watching. For more news, please visit our website graphic.com.gh or follow us on Facebook at Daily Graphic and on YouTube and Twitter at GraphicGH. And please don't forget to subscribe. I am Enoch Dafa Frimpong.
Subscribe now.